Ciao ragazzi e benvenuti a questa puntata di Six Strings Addicted. Oggi per i nostri test andremo a vedere il radar della MOOER. Prima di iniziare la puntata vi ricordo di iscrivervi al nostro canale, mettere mi piace al video se vi è piaciuto e insomma se potete condividete con i vostri amici magari che non conoscono ancora il canale in modo da farlo crescere. Intanto grazie ancora perché abbiamo superato da un po' la soglia dei 1000 e partiamo subito con la puntata. Dunque, questo affarino che vedete qui, che è piccolissimo, è uno speaker simulator con anche simulazioni di microfoni, quindi l'ambiente, addirittura possiamo decidere anche la distanza del microfono, se metterlo in asse o fuori asse, quindi se centrarlo dal cono o spostarlo leggermente. In più a bordo ha un piccolo pre. Ve lo farò vedere, soprattutto, sì, c'è ovviamente il menu suo è abbastanza veloce e rapido da consultare dal vivo, ma c'è un software che tra l'altro hanno appena rilasciato la versione 1.2. Prima c'era un piccolo bug che praticamente una volta che tu avevi preset collegavi il software ti chiedeva per leggere il MOOER di cancellare tutti i file che avevi messo, il che non era proprio una cosa simpaticissima. Quindi tutti i preset dovevi cancellarteli e rifarteli, ma col nuovo non c'è nessun problema. Allora, intanto la mia chitarra entra nella pedaliera, vi farò sentire il suono bypassato e il suono ovviamente con lui attivo. E perché ho preso, mi sono comprato questo radar? Perché adesso, avendo una situazione acustica, non volevo più portarmi l'amplificatore in giro e avevo bisogno di qualcosa di leggero, però tutti i miei suoni del duo, quelli del quartetto, sono tutti suoni che io ho fatto sulla mia pedaliera. Non ho voglia di riprendermi una pedaliera più piccola e andarmene in giro, rifarmi di nuovo tutti i suoni. Quindi ho preso questa cosa qui, non porto più l'ampli, entro direttamente con lui nel mixer. Andiamo a sentire un po' di suoni, partiamo subito. Intanto vedete la sezione Power Amp, ci clicco, ecco qua, vedete mi dà la possibilità di selezionare le varie valvole dalle L34, L84, 6L6 e 6V6. Si sente una leggera differenza sulle L34, il suono è leggermente più definito, un po' più presente. 6L6 e le 6V6 sono leggermente slabrate, un po' insomma classiche americane, come quelle che trovate sui Fender, e hanno praticamente slabrano un po' sulle basse. Vi faccio sentire adesso le varie valvole. Partiamo dalla L34, metto un po' di... in questo caso sto usando l'Allen Heinz. Questo è il suono che risulterebbe avere la mia pedaliera entrando qui. Se vado in bypass, vedete, questo è il suono, insomma è inascoltabile e non si può. Per cui, come avete visto, suona abbastanza bene, anche perché sto usando gli Hardy Celestion, un po' vi spiegherò il perché. Bene, L84. La stessa cosa la possiamo fare qui, vedete, attraverso il suo menu, vedete Tube, se ruoto Tube mi dà la selezione delle valvole, qui giro, 6L6 e così via. Abbiamo l'input, presence e l'output, quindi proprio un pre. Vediamo un po', L34, 6L6 e 6V6. Vedete che spingono più sulle basse, il suono diventa meno definito. L34, ritorniamo. Lo si sente molto meglio sul pick up al ponte, cioè sono sottigliezze, cioè qui non parliamo di grosse differenze, soprattutto entrando qua. Potete usare lui anche con un pre, col vostro pre se vi piace la vostra testata, ma io ho voluto eliminare proprio l'amplificatore dal vivo. È un compromesso e vi dico è un compromesso un po' al ribasso, cioè scordatevi che questo possa sostituire l'ampli. Diciamo che è un buon compromesso, non devi portarti l'ampli, non devi microfonarlo, fai subito, è un ottimo backup perché se siete in concerto, vi si fulmina l'ampli e volete continuare la serata, collegate lui e fine dei problemi. I suoni sono abbastanza compressi, dovete lavorarci un bel po' per ottenere un bel sound in base all'impianto. Io, avendo un impianto Yamaha con un mixer Yamaha, ho fatto i suoni proprio, ci ho perso un paio di pomeriggi scegliendo gli EAR giusti, l'equalizzazione giusta, in modo che mi suonasse abbastanza bene, ma soprattutto che suonasse abbastanza bene fuori, perché vi spiego, i suoni fuori sono venuti anche alcuni musicisti, chitarristi molto bravi a cui ho chiesto: ma com'era il suono fuori? Ah, niente male, sembrava quasi un ampli. Ovvio che chi ha l'orecchio lo riconosce che poi non è proprio un ampli vero e proprio, quindi andava bene. Quindi per la maggior parte delle persone che vengono ad ascoltarvi va benissimo, soprattutto se dovete suonare in un locale, insomma, c'è da fare piccole situazioni, va più che bene. Il problema è il feeling sotto le dita e la risposta dei pedali. La risposta dei pedali è molto diversa rispetto all'amplificatore. Esempio, le distorsioni, quindi gli overdrive, in questo caso io uso il Soul Driven e il Macaroni Bros, tendono ad avere più gain ed essere un po' più compresse, e soprattutto hanno un piccolo taglio sulle frequenze alte, quindi bisogna aggiungerle un po' rispetto a quando le collego all'amplificatore. Ora vi faccio sentire gli EAR che ho messo, vi farò sentire un po' dei suoni nativi. I suoni nativi per me sono troppo finti, quindi ho preferito gli EAR di Celestion, che suonano davvero molto molto bene. Anche loro comunque hanno una certa compressione, ma è uguale su tutte le macchine, anche sulle Fractal più o meno abbiamo riscontrato la stessa cosa, cioè i pedali di overdrive tendono ad avere un po' più di distorsione e il suono è leggermente compresso. Ci sta, ovviamente, non possiamo pensare di avere il suono dell'ampli al 100%. Allora, abbiamo anche l'equalizzatore grafico. In questo caso qui abbiamo la schermata dell'equalizzatore, vedete, e possiamo scegliere qui se spegnerlo, così è attivo; se lo spengo, off. La stessa cosa potete fare su lui usando il tastino, il menu che c'è sul bordo del pedale, e gestire i vari equalizzatori. Parametrico, posso scegliere, e qui ovviamente assegnare il filtro passa alti e il filtro passa basse, e poi andare a lavorare su ognuna delle frequenze. Sul grafico è ancora più facile da seguire, perché vedete, abbiamo per ogni frequenza che decidiamo di lavorare possiamo dare più o meno dB, ok? Questi sono gli acuti, se aumento, vedete, quindi in base, ecco perché io ci ho perso un bel po' di tempo, in base all'attrezzatura che usate dovete equalizzare in un certo modo, in modo da avere una risposta più vicina possibile a quella che può essere quella di un ampli. Quindi scordatevi il plug and play, perché plug and play sì, se vi accontentate dei suoni, ma se volete un suono più possibile vicino, reale all'amplificatore, dovete smanettarci un po'. Andiamo a vedere. Andiamo sulla... Questa è l'IAR con i coni G12M. Vi faccio sentire. Vedete, la cosa bella è che io ho tutti i miei suoni col delay, reverbero, posso cambiare anche da qua, vedete, vado sul 2, è cambiata, e GM con l'SM57, cambio ancora, greenback, screenback invece, bello asprigno. Questo è il greenback con Sennheiser. Greenback con Neumann. È abbastanza reattivo, vedete? E il feeling non è male. Ma passiamo, vi faccio sentire un po' dei suoi suoni nativi. Quindi ecco qua, cassa dovrebbe essere una mesa, questa 4x12. Se vado a vedere qui nella schermata, vedete, posso scegliere da qui ovviamente tutto il tipo di casse, che so, Bassman 4x10, Bassman 2x12, io ce l'ho originale e vi dico non suona così, anche la C30 non è proprio uguale, sì, ricorda un po' quell'ampli, ma ha un ricordo, ok? Non è la C30. SM57, se metto l'MD421, vedete, posso aumentare il volume del microfono. La stessa cosa, ricordatevi, potete farla con il pedale. L'edge, se lo metto più al lato, centrato, ok? Se lo sposto, vedete, diventa un po' più scuro, centrato, prende in pieno il cono, quindi il suono è più diretto e prende più la parte acuta. Io solitamente anche il microfono lo porto leggermente fuori asse e qui dovete lavorare finché non trovate il match giusto dell'attrezzatura che state usando, mixer e casse, con lui. Distanza del microfono, vedete, per creare più ambiente, più diretto, quindi il microfono proprio attaccato all'ampli. Possiamo cambiare ancora C30, andiamo un po' su solo L, questa è la Soldano. Vedete, ovviamente è una cassa fatta per gli high gain, infatti già il pedale risponde in maniera diversa. Ogni cosa che voi toccate farà suonare il tutto in maniera diversa. Metto l'U87, vedete, cioè sui clean non è proprio il massimo. Io preferisco usare infatti gli ER di Celestion, infatti andiamo sul Creamback, eccolo qua, vedete? Cambiamo un attimo. Sempre il Creamback, vedete come risponde. Se io voglio aggiungere gli AR, è semplicissimo, vi scaricate gli AR da Celestion, ci sono anche gratuiti che potete provare, fate più, ok, vedete su ER, e qui andate a selezionarvi gli AR che avete. Vi faccio vedere quelli che ho sulla scrivania, giusto per ER Celestion, vedete che ne ho una marea. Se apro, che so, il Creamback, vedete, avete tutta la possibilità di selezionarvi quelli high gain, low gain, 4x12, 2x12, Royer, che sono i microfoni, vedete, 4x12, 4x12, insomma, avete le close back, le semi open back, insomma, c'è di tutto davvero su questi. Ci ho perso giornate per trovare quelli che poi piacevano a me. Neumann, stessa cosa. Sur, qui possiamo scegliere, ovviamente anche qua l'SM57, e in base a quello che mettete vedete che se io adesso seleziono questo, ora cambia, vediamo un attimo, ecco qua, è cambiato un po', e questo è quanto. Per cui ragazzi, questo affarino qui è davvero bellissimo, però dovete perderci del tempo per tirar fuori il meglio. È comodo perché potete caricarvi i vostri AR, quindi se avete i vostri AR preferiti ve li caricate dentro, facilissimo, vi ho fatto vedere come si fa, è una cavolata col suo software. Tra l'altro MOOER Studio, la versione 1.2, scaricatevi quella più aggiornata. Lo collegate con un cavetto mini USB che non è in dotazione, dovete comprarlo a parte se non ce l'avete già. E io adesso sto entrando chitarra nella mia pedaliera e dentro poi direttamente nella scheda audio. È lo stesso procedimento che uso dal vivo, che entro direttamente nel mixer, così ho eliminato il problema dell'ampli, di microfonare anche l'ampli dal vivo. Siamo in un duo acustico, non mi serviva tutta sta roba, quindi i suoni però sono sempre i miei gli stessi. Siamo già 3 anni che andiamo in tour con Cedric e quindi i suoni ce l'avevo già pronti per tutte le canzoni, non c'avevo voglia di sbattermi a tirarmi giù un altro rig e rifare le cose, quindi per cui uso questo rig con le varie configurazioni. Per cui provate, mettetevi lì, provate prima i suoni nativi, poi magari possono anche piacervi, quello dipende dai gusti. Per me il suono dei suoni nativi è leggermente finto rispetto ai Celestion, che sono molto molto più reattivi come sound. Bene, a me non resta che salutarvi, darvi appuntamento alla prossima puntata, ricordarvi di iscrivervi al canale se ancora non l'avete fatto e ci vediamo alla prossima. Ciao ragazzi!
Hi, I'm G Trevino, and today I'm going to be checking out the MOOER Radar Speaker Cab Simulator. So the MOOER Radar Speaker Cab Simulator is a compact pedal that houses 30 different cabinet models, 11 different mic models, 4 different power amp models, customizable EQs, up to 36 user presets, and best of all, you can load in your own custom cabinet IRs, all for under $150. Like, are you kidding me? The pedal has one input, one output, and one headphone output for silent jamming. I actually stopped by the MOOER booth during WinterNAMM 2018 and tried out the radar there myself, and I gotta say I was super impressed. It's usually designed to be used in conjunction with your favorite distortion pedal or preamp pedal, and then you use them together, and then there you go. You have a small, compact rig, and you don't even need an amp. For me, it's a great solution for my Line 6 Pod HD Pro X, which is what I use live with my band A Real King. This way, I can take one of the outputs out of the pod, feed it into a power amp and power up the cab that I have on stage, and then take the other output, feed it into the radar, and then give that to the front of house guy. Now the front of house guy has a clean, direct signal, and I know that my guitar is going to sound good for everyone else to hear. So let's check out the pedal and all the other cab IRs that come with the radar. In the example you just heard, I used the 412 UK Citrus model for all of the guitars, but there are a lot of other cool sounding cab IRs to check out too. I'm going to be using my Schecter Hellraiser loaded with Fishman Fluent's classic humbuckers, going into the Pod HD Pro X right behind me, and then from there going into the radar. The cab simulation in the Line 6 is turned off. And the amp I'm modeling is the tread plate model with a tube screamer in the front. Okay, so this is what the pedal sounds like bypassed. Ah, so magical. Only the best tone. Alright, screw that nonsense. Let's hear what the pedal actually sounds like. I turned off the power amp simulation in the radar because technically the patch that I'm using in my Line 6 has some power amp simulation already in it. Okay, let's take it out of bypass mode. And there we go. So it's pretty easy to navigate. You got this big red knob on the front, and if you move it, you will go through the different various presets. And if you push it, it'll do different things. So if I push it once, master volume, and then if you hold it for 2 seconds, I think, then it'll show the other menu. And you can exit out of that, easy. And if you hold it down for longer than that, that's when you will bypass the pedal. Okay, so let's go through some of these cabs. I like that one. Matchbox. Oh goodness. Here are all the bass cabinets that come with it. Yeah, that's the new guitar tone that I'm going to use. So yeah, you get the idea. It comes with lots of options. So let's actually go back to that UK Citrus model that I was telling you about. And then I'll show you, where are you? There you are. I'll show you how you go about editing all of the parameters. So like I said, you hold it for 2 seconds, boom, and then a menu comes up. This is where you can turn on your power amp simulation, the type of tube, your input, your presence, your output. Hit the next menu. This is where you can change your mic placement, distance, and then you can change the model on the actual preset, which is cool. Here are all your graphic EQs. If you select here, you can go between the 2 different graphic ones that they have. One is more for bass and the other one is more for guitar. Then you have a parametric, or you can turn it off. So let's actually turn it off for now. And then you save your preset, and then boom, there you go. So there's a ton that you can do with the radar just straight out of the box. But the coolest part, like I said before, is being able to load in your own custom cabinet IRs, and that's super easy to do. Just hook up the radar to your computer via mini USB, and then download the MOOER Studio software from their website. So here's MOOER Studio, and it's pretty self-explanatory. All the same parameters I was able to control off the radar itself, I can do here in the software. So I can turn the power amp on and off, and what's really cool is that once I start messing with it, you'll see it happening on the pedal in real time. I can change the tube type. You see it changing there. All the different parameters, the cabinet, turn it on or off, and then I can choose all the different cabinets that come with it. Over here are all the different presets. So if I switch a preset, it's going to ask me if I want to save the existing preset. I'm going to hit cancel. Cool. And then I can just keep switching between all the presets like so. So to load in your own IR, just go ahead and select one of the presets. Make sure you're in the cab menu. And then over by the drop down menu, you will see a little plus sign. Click that. And then head over to where you store all of your cabinet IRs. So cabinet IRs, yeah, these wonderful ones by Rosen Digital. The Carbon Legacy one is the one I use all the time. Open. Give it a second. And boom, there you go. That was way easy. One thing to note though is that you can only store 30 cabs. So when you load in your own custom cab, it technically erases the stock cab that was in its place. So the only way to get back the original cabinet, to my knowledge anyway, is you have to perform a factory reset on the radar, which is super easy to do. Just make sure it's off, hold down the button, power it back on, and then launch MOOER Studio, and then it'll promptly ask you if you want to continue with the factory reset. Another thing is that when you do load in your own IR, you're technically updating an existing preset. So you might have an EQ in the background that's ready to mess up your tone. So be sure to turn that off or adjust the taste. All right, let's hear what the Carbon Legacy cab sounds like. Now that's awesome. In this next example, I'm going to show you 3 different cabs and what they sound like compared to each other. The first one is going to be the stock Line 6 cab that comes with the Pod HD. The second one is going to be the UK Citrus model that I used in the earlier example. And then finally, it's going to be the Carbon Legacy cab. First in a mix, and then in isolation. The MOOER radar is a great solution for many different kinds of guitar rigs, and I can't recommend it enough. MOOER is not paying me to say this, I just thought that this pedal was super cool and I wanted to share it with all of you. Links to their website, where you can buy the pedal for yourself, and my social media are in the description box below. And for more guitar videos like this, check out my channel, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time.
Welcome back to PlaySide Studios, everyone. Today we are checking out one of MOOER's newest creations, a micro pedal that emulates speaker cabinets, microphones, power amps, and even EQ, called the Radar. Many moons ago, we checked out a micro preamp by MOOER called the Kali Mark III, and there's actually going to be another series of these coming out fairly soon, from what I understand. So stay tuned for that, because I think they have one amp that I really want. But what I loved about these pedals is the authenticity of the sound you get in a micro format. And one of the things I wanted to pair with this ever since they came out was a speaker cabinet simulator of the same size. And this actually does have a bit of a impulse response or some type of EQ that you can activate that sounds pretty good if you're plugging straight into a board or recording software suite of some kind. But there's only one of them, which is, you know, a bit limited, and I rely just as much on speaker cabinets and different impulse responses to get different sounds as I do the actual amplifiers going in them. So you could buy, 10 of these, but you really only had one choice per preamp pedal when it came to cabinet simulation. In the meantime, we also checked out the Trace Cab, which is an older MOOER pedal, and it essentially contains 5 different EQ profiles that try to emulate real speaker cabinets, but it doesn't really get you anywhere close to the authenticity behind impulse responses. You don't get a lot of the dynamics, still a lot of fizz, still a lot of boom that doesn't sound realistic. Enter the MOOER Radar. This certainly isn't the first impulse response loading pedal out there on the market. For instance, 2Notes has their own, but I don't think anything comes close to achieving what this does for the price point as well as the footprint. Again, this is in a micro pedal format, so it'll be able to match up perfectly right next to your micro preamp if you so choose. This runs off of a single 12-volt power supply, which is a bit disappointing. They couldn't squeeze 9 volts into it, but understandable. One disadvantage to this design choice is that the power supply is as big, if not bigger than the pedal, but still it's a little bit better than the brick monstrosity 24 volt that shipped with the Baby Bomb. So I'm at least glad they were able to shrink it down to 12 volts. You also have a micro USB type B connector for connecting to your PC and be able to use the MOOER Studio software. And that's kind of a light Axe Edit or Line 6 Helix type software that allows you to do everything you'd be able to do on the screen of this pedal, but with the ease of your PC, as well as loading your own impulse responses, which we'll get to shortly. Another great I/O feature on this pedal is a dedicated headphone jack, which makes this a must-buy for me personally, because I've always been able to throw distortion pedals, preamp pedals, even small overdrive pedals into a bag and just take it with me on the road, but you always have to take some type of speaker solution or a bunch of converter cables or something to be able to play through headphones and not sound like absolute garbage. With a headphone jack, not only do you not have to buy an external pedal that would give you a stereo output, but you don't have to sacrifice portability nor sound quality to achieve a silent rig on the go. That's a killer feature for me. The face of this pedal isn't exactly in line with a lot of MOOER's recent creations, which is a good thing in this case. You have a simple one-button operation of either scrolling or clicking in to operate the color LCD display, which is pretty cool. It's better than the AX8, which is pretty funny considering how small and inexpensive this item is compared to a full-fledged amp modeler. Even at floor distance, the display remains crystal clear. You can read all the text, see all the pictures, you'll know exactly what preset you're on. And even though this is a bit of an archaic way of navigating around a display, I still use this more than I have my AX8 since I've had it for like 6 months at this point. So it does get a little bit used to holding down different time periods to get to a bypass screen or get to the different modification screens, but it's fairly intuitive, and I wouldn't know how to do it by the manual I was given anyway because it's all in Chinese. So I figured it out. It's not hard. And like I said, I've been using this as much as the built-in software. The Radar's out-of-the-box capabilities are divided into 3 main screens. You have power amp emulation, the cabinet and microphone section, and finally a post-EQ stage. The power amp simulation could be really useful if you're running something like the effect send of an amplifier for some reason, or something like the preamp pedals by MOOER or any other company for that matter. And that gives you a little bit more realistic compression. You're able to choose from 4 different tube types, which do drastically affect the sound a little bit more so than what I think is realistic. In my opinion, I don't think they're just changing the tube types. I think they're changing different power amps. So the EL34 and 6L6 tubes sound way different than what they would if you change them on something like a fractal amp modeler. So I imagine they're just going through something like a Mesa power amp versus a Marshall power amp. Whatever it is, you still can get some really good results. You have some input output as well as a presence metric to play with, and it will allow you to get just a little bit more brightness out of a otherwise maybe flat sounding preamp. The Radar's real capability lies within the cabinet and microphone emulation, where you have access to 30 different cabinet models and 11 microphone models, which is even more than a lot of premium software has, so that's pretty cool. This includes different cabinets anywhere from 1x8s, 2x12s, 2x10s, 4x12s, Marshalls, Mesas, Ingles, Bogners, as well as some bass models. So you have some 4x10s, some 15-inch speaker models, 8x10s, some Bassman stuff. So this isn't just limited to guitar. And as you'll hear momentarily with bass guitar, it does sound pretty good. You can get some pretty drastically different tones by mixing and matching microphone models to cabinet models. I especially like the SM57, 58, the Neumann stuff, you know, U87, U47. There's a lot of great microphones included. You even have some distance and distance to center on the microphone positioning, although it doesn't give you quite the drastic change. And really, it sounds like two different settings that are just blended on the in-between settings. So that is a bit of a bummer, but I wouldn't have expected them to put like 10 different impulse responses for every combination. That'd be a little ridiculous. But it does work really well, and you'll get some pretty realistic tones by matching your favorite mics to your favorite cabinets. The out-of-the-box presets on this pedal are definitely great, but in my opinion, the real value of this pedal lies in being able to store your own impulse responses into any of the 36 presets. So all of your own hammer stuff, your red wire stuff, impulse responses you've made, you'll be able to carry with you in your pocket anywhere you go. Now, unless something changes between now and the time this video goes up, you do have to overwrite some of the factory impulse responses to load your own. For me, not a big deal. I'll gladly take away some of the ones I don't care for to be able to take my own Excalibur and Mesa impulse responses anywhere I go, because honestly, who's going to be using 36 user presets anyway? If you need 36 different cabinet sounds, I'd hate to see your set list. Now, in my envisioned use case, I would probably be turning the power amp sims off if I'm using custom impulse responses, because you'd be using them on the lines out of something like real tube amplifiers, especially if you want to use like the AX8 or the Helix or something like that, and for a cable method and you don't have a way to send a signal directly to front of house, here's your solution. You'll be able to use all the digital effects as well as real tubes and still get a real front of house signal without miking up a cabinet and have to kill small animals to get the good tone and volume you need. The last screen, which is definitely not to be overlooked, is the EQ section, which gives you access to a guitar and bass graphic EQ as well as a general parametric EQ. And I don't find this super useful in comparison to the cabs and mics, because for me, if I was going to be sending this out somewhere, it's probably either going to be, through a mixer board with its own EQ, or I'll just take care of it in a DAW. But it's still nice if you don't have anything else to sculpt your tone with, or you just want to get it a little bit closer to the source. So the high pass and low pass features will definitely be used for that in my case. Everything else is just a cherry on top in my opinion. So it does work, and I'm really glad they added that option, mainly for the low and high passes. But if you do need it, it's there. My overall impressions of the MOOER radar, it crushes this thing. Not that this was exactly a high bar, but it's nice to be able to have a professional sounding cabinet simulation pedal that I can take anywhere, again, pocket sized. It'll be a great travel companion as well as a great oh shit type of tool if I do run into those situations where you need a direct signal with cabinet sound. For 150 bucks, it is a little bit more pricey than some of their other micro lines of pedals, even a little bit more than the Baby Bomb, which allow you to go to a real cabinet. But I think with the feature set, with the quality, with a really nice screen, it feels really well built. I think it's very much worth that price, especially when you compare it to some of the competitors on the market. You'll probably get more presets. You'll be able to have a larger database of your own impulse responses, but ultimately, to me, at something this small, do you really need more than 36 cabinets? I mean, I don't use that many combined probably across my entire suite of AX8 patches and free VST setups and all that good stuff. So fits my needs perfectly. The headphone jack is killer, and everything else is just cherry on top. Like being able to control it from PC with USB. So yeah, this is definitely another winner pedal from them. I'm loving what MOOER's doing, and every time I've asked for something, it's been coming out. So when I first reviewed the preamp pedal, I said I would love a impulse response loader in that form, and here we are. So keep them coming. I'll keep buying because I have no allegiance to any guitar manufacturer out there or guitar accessory manufacturer, propane accessories, but I've been really digging what MOOER's doing, and I hope they keep coming with some cool stuff that I don't even know I want in this form factor. It's pretty great. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you next time with probably more micro pedals because you can't run out of space for these things. Why not? Thanks for watching. Bye.
Hey, what is up everyone? Today we take a look at this little thing here, the MOOER radar. The MOOER radar is a speaker cabinet simulator. So what it does, it simulates guitar cabinets. There are some dozens of cabinets that come in this pedal, but you also have the possibility to load in your own cab impulses in here. You can connect this via USB to your computer, and with the software, which didn't work on my computer, with Magos Yosemite 10.10, it didn't work. I don't know why. So yeah, you can connect this to your computer and load in your own cab impulses and take them with you, which is very cool. So I ordered this to see if I could improve the sound of my Line 6 HD 500. I know at home I can use, plugins like Two Notes Wall of Sound or Pulse by Rosen Digital. But let's say I want to take my pod to a jam session or use it live. I obviously can't use the plugins on my computer. So this is where this comes in. You simply plug it into the effects loop of your pod, and you put the effects block just behind your amp simulation, and of course you disable the cab simulation on the pod. If we go quickly over this pedal, as you can see, there's a big screen here, or big, for the pedal of this size, this is a big screen. It looks kind of like a 90s Game Boy, and there's only one knob which allows you to browse through all the presets and settings by turning and pushing. Guitar input and output, and you have a headphone output, which is also very handy. 12-volt power supply, which comes with the pedal, and the mini USB input. There's a lot of stuff in this little box, I must say. So what do I think about this pedal? I really like the idea. I really like that you can hook it up to your computer and load in your own cab impulses and take them with you. However, the built-in cabinet simulations are not really good. That's my opinion, but I don't like them. There was one single cab, or maybe two, that I would actually use with this thing. It's the 1x12 kitty, I think. I don't know why it's a kitty. That is the biggest downside for me, especially for 125 euros. You get the possibility to take your cab impulses with me, but for that money, I would like to have some killer cab impulses already in there, which is not the case. So now you see I have the problem. I didn't manage to get it connected to my computer. I tried multiple times. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. You know, I'm clicking the program. It just doesn't want to open. I'm stuck with the built-in cabinet simulations, and considering that there are so many, and I just personally would use only one because that's the only one I really like, this is not worth 125 euros for me. I know it's a bit unfortunate, and if it would work I would probably have a different view on this. But yeah, so let's hook this up and let me show you what you can actually do with it and what settings you have, because there's actually a whole lot you can do on this. So let's do that. Alrighty, so here we have the radar connected to the HD500, so it's in the effects loop. Let me just browse through some cabinet sims. Bah. I think that's, yeah, these are bass cabs. Now, yeah, as you can hear, they are all pretty much disgusting in my ears. Let me show you the preset. Oh, yeah, that I really liked. The kitty. Let's make it a bit louder. Push, then you can adjust the master. I really like that one. What can we do with this pedal? If you click and hold, you get this menu where you can adjust some things. For example, a power amp section with different tubes. Then also really cool is the presence feature. Okay, and then we go to next. Then we have our cabinet, and then stuff like the microphone. I really like the SM57. And then you can even, you know, change the placement of the microphone. Okay, and then we go to next again, and then we have an EQ. So you can choose between graphic EQ, graphic B, well, I don't know what that is, parametric EQ, or just EQ off. Let me show what I did here. I cut some of the low end. So this is actually pretty usable, because you can choose the frequency that you would like to, you know, adjust. And then, of course, the amount of decibels. So I got rid of a rumbling low end. Let me show you how it is without EQ. Just to clean it up a bit. And then here at 2.75K. To get rid of some of those nasty frequencies. You know, you could do that later on in your DAW, but I mean, why not use it here? Let's say if you're using this live, it's pretty cool to pre-EQ your signal, so the sound guy doesn't have to do that much, and he will be very happy. Save, and yeah. Just to give you an idea how the pod would sound, I'm going to switch to the exact same preset, but with the 4x12 XXL cabinet. Let's see how that sounds. Switch back. Sounds much less like a pod, which is really nice in my opinion. And the cool thing is, if you hook it up into the effects loop, you probably can't see that. Where's my hand? There is my hand. Oh, there it is. When you put the effects block just behind the amp simulation, you can still put effects like reverb and all that good stuff behind the effects block. So, you know, if I turn on the reverb, which is behind the effects loop, it's still stereo. It's really cool that you can, you know, integrate the radar into the HD500. That is that. Now, in the end, I'm not really convinced to get this to, you know, improve the sound of my Line 6 HD500, because I don't know, it's quite a lot of money. You know, it's like more than half the price of a used HD500, which is kind of a lot to just, you know, upgrade it. You know, I'm not saying that it's not worth it in general. Just for me personally, I would, you know, because I'm just wanting to upgrade from my HD500 anyway, and not, you know, try and with something like this to get it to work anyway. I want to save up some money and get a Helix. That is my best solution. However, it does work quite nicely. And as you heard in the demo song, it makes the pod sound less pod, which is a good thing. Alright everyone, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't subscribed yet to my channel, please do so. Take care, and I will see you next time.
Amps on air.
Yo, I got the MOOER radar set up and running some acoustic IRs I want to show you. So this is it in bypass. So this is just going straight into the audio interface. Nothing fancy yet. And I hope you're getting clean enough audio off the mic that this isn't coming in. But it's got that Taylor sound. And then, so I've loaded in 2 sets of IRs. So first is the Taylor guitar with a bunch of different mics. So that's this with something like an Earthworks QT. So that's on. And that's just bypassed. And then you got things like a Neumann U87 in here. It's super bright. I'd probably add an EQ to it, but versus off. Sounds a lot more natural. And then you throw in the like it has an SM57, which if you really want that sound, it just sounds like an SM57. And then you have this other set, which is a bunch of the Martin models off of an impulse response. And so things like a grand auditorium, it just sounds so good. And it's really that bass. It just comes back. It just sounds a little more natural. You still get a little bit of the kind of neck thingy that happens with a Taylor. And there's even fun little ones in here, like there's Mahogany OM versus a Rosewood. There's a good Dreadnought in here, Mahogany Dreadnought. Rosewood Dreadnought. All the way to Tricone Resonator. I don't like that sound very much. I've really started liking some of these, like the OMs. Really like that versus just plugging in and having this. Is the MOOER radar. I love this thing. I need to make some of my own IRs get like that real sound, but I think this is a promising trick.